Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Talk to the Fedora, chatting about hard-hitting, honest entrepreneur wisdom that you can use to grow your small business. I'm your host, Jarrod Goldsmith from eSAX Virtual Events, and today we're very pleased to be welcoming Bernie Franzgrote. Bernie provides business-to-business support by being known as a synergy architect. He helps connect people with unique solutions to those with unique needs is his specialty. Bernie is excellent at connecting resources across different diverse networks involving IT, commercial real estate, venture capital, grant funding, management consulting, post-secondary institutions, and many other industries. Bernie also has a focus on social enterprises and non-for-profit businesses to develop a healthy social ROI. Please welcome Bernie Franzgrote.
Jarrod, thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us today. Bernie, let's talk a bit about your background. Who are you and what are you all about?
Oh, Jarrod, I have 36 years working in a healthcare institution and 20 of it in business development. And in December 2018, shifted gears, started a company called Kreative Insight Consultants. And from there, I started networking. The very beginning was my wife said, "You should try Meetup." And I said, "Honey, are you telling me to go to a dating website?"
Yeah.
And she said, no. That particular space hosts a whole bunch of groups that are connecting with people, depending what you want. In this particular case, my focus was on business. And so I connected with a couple different groups. And in fact, one of them I'm still connected with, called Phoenix Business Exchange. And in that time, I started getting connected with businesses, and one of them resulted in Connect Ottawa, and the driving force in that was to build a community where we can bring businesses in, mentor or be mentored, and share information. And it's something I came across when I was inside the hospital. We would have an annual conference that would be happening, and that's where everybody would be sharing, "Hi, we've tried this, we've tried that, or we did a different approach," and you'd share it, take it back, and adapt it to suit your own needs. Right. And I've seen that happen inside even in eSAX, where you have the Remco platform to help promote multiple events. Same idea. I've come across that. I've also been involved in PureFog Canada, and that's selling a disinfectant that won't kill you, but it goes after viruses, bacteria, mold, spore, and fungus. So there's a whole bunch of different things that come together through this networking piece. So that's kind of my background. And since 2020, Connect Ottawa has been active as Phoenix, and business has been being generated and connecting with people.
This is fantastic to hear, because a lot of the times we talk about the value of community, connecting with entrepreneurs, other like-minded organizations or people, not only to sell your stuff, but to help them grow, and we grow as a community. So you're a walking example of that. Excellent. Bernie, let's talk about some of your origin story. Why did you launch Kreative Insights?
Well, the retirement phase, I created, no pun intended, Kreative Insight, and it's spelled Kretiv. It's the Germanic spelling of it. Made it easier to register the name as a business. I retired, spent 2 weeks working around the house, realized I'm not a painter. It was a good workout, but no, that was not for me. And I shifted gears. And that's when I started networking outwards. And
getting you only retired for 2 weeks, and he said, "I got to do something."
Yeah. Well, it was too much of a hard stop. And one of the keys, even in retirement, is never to totally stop, because then that's not a good sign for you, and it's not a good sign at any point in time to come to a full stop in life.
Yeah. Do you have a background in business or entrepreneurship?
Yeah, so the last 20 years at the hospital was business development, and it was really interesting. Inside the hospital space, although people were there to help you, their time's already spoken for. So a lot of times I'd go for them for advice, and they say, "Listen, you have to seek outside the mothership, so to speak." Yeah. And I did, and it worked out really well. Sometimes you can refer to the experts they knew, or I had to find my own experts. And so that started the process. You prepared a budget for 20 years, and and you had to have a net gain. Um, and even as it was a non-for-profit to start off with, which is kind of why I focused in the health non-for-profit sectors. I understand what's happening, where your limitations are in money handling, but at the same time, it's a business, and so you're looking at things to improve the business. So there are demands that come up. There's an old saying that a friend of mine has said, if there are no problems, there are no opportunities. And so you look for the opportunities. So if someone says, listen, I need X, or I need to have something flow, then can you deliver that? Is it doable? And if it is, why not? Right? And explore that opportunity.
A lot of the times we hear about, charities, nonprofits, musicians, and whatever you're doing, they don't treat it like a business. But you honed in on this right away. It doesn't matter if you're a social enterprise. Treating it like a business is very important.
Yep. The distinction is shareholders. Who's getting the money at the end of the day? I mean, if you're a charity, that means CRA views you as you're not stockpiling lots of cash in the bank. However, you do have to have a reserve fund to cover costs and expenses, unexpected expenses. That's allowed for. That's where you end up stopping, going, how much do I hold in the piggy bank? You talk to your accountant, and then that takes us right back to the networking piece, right? And inside the hospital, that was also networking. There were established contacts, right? And so you always go back to the experts that can help you out. If you're looking at something and you're going, okay, I need to proceed, and then they come back and you either hire them or you get some advice on the fly. And then if need be, then you hire them to sort it out so that it's done efficiently and effectively.
Yeah, because not all of us are specialists in everything. Working or collaborating with others or hiring them, as the case may be, is important. Like, let's skip ahead a little bit and talk about the concept of collaboration. How have you decided to collaborate, and how important has it been when you went on your own?
Well, when you look at the Connect Ottawa linkage, right? Margaret Ann Davis is one of the co-founders, and that was collaborating. We both have different strengths. There are certain things that are common between the two of us, but we each have our own strengths and experiences, and we bring them forward. And that is super handy. Even in the PureFog Canada side, one company we're dealing with, they deal with chemicals all the time, and so they can walk us through what's happening when we see a competitor's product out there. What's the difference? Are we ahead of the game, behind the game? What is the story? And then when you take it from there, and you, let's say, I'm looking at Creative Insight right now, I got to do my books. I'm not an accountant. And you know what? And at the end of the day, if you're incorporated, you want your accountant to file in your paperwork. You want your lawyer filing your paperwork, because then you're not going to get surprised 2 years down the road going, you shouldn't have done that, right? And you find those resources to help you and to work with them.
Sure. I mean,
but it's not only just even the resources I need for my day-to-day operations or your day-to-day operations, even expanding your horizon. You're now looking for what they call joint ventures. And I don't mean that in the sense that a permanent relationship, but you try to find people that are out there, get along well with, right? You develop the trust with them. And then you look for, is there something you have that you do that we both can work with? And I remember from the Ottawa Board of Trade, someone was giving a talk about, listen, that's my competitor, but where the project is so big, you get your competitors work together to achieve everybody has a win. And the idea is always to keep it in a win scenario.
Yeah, that's important. Like looking at the big picture rather than treating others as everything's a competitor and never the two shall meet. Like, what about resiliency? Like during COVID, Bernie, like how has resiliency been important? Also talking about the work-life balance.
So three aspects on that. One day I was booking a guest speaker at Connect Ottawa, and he was a chiropractor, Shane Bayless. He's out here in Canada. And he says to me, Bernie, what do I got to share with the business? I said, Shane, I did, and this goes back to personal health. I said, Shane, I did a 12-hour Zoom day. And I realized the mistake in my way. I mean, I stopped for pit breaks, but I sat for too long. And when I walked way later on, I thought, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? I said, Shane, if I'm making that mistake, people are probably making variations of that same mistake. Help us. and talk to us. And that was an example of, there are things in our environment, in our work environment, that, you share that information, everybody benefits. That was a good example, of that circumstance, of a sharing moment.
For sure,
Resiliency wise. What's that?
Especially from a chiropractic perspective. Like,
absolutely.
How does it affect your body by sitting all day?
Well, apparently it makes your legs swell up if you're not careful, and your joints go, yes, now the warranty on your body seems to want to expire sooner. At least it feels that way for a few minutes, and then you realize, I can't keep doing that. That's not good for my body. Yeah, that's one of the things. But the other handy thing, although the pandemic did slow down my interactions with the outside world in person, it didn't stop my interactions at all. So from the Connect Ottawa piece, so we had a guest coming up from BC, and so I went to their networking group. From there, I'm now connected in the UK, South Africa, the US, obviously, Australia. So all of a sudden, it's almost like you're leaving your nest, and you're going to visit other areas, and you're going, hey, that's cool and awesome, and you just do the same natural thing. You connect with people, and you find out what they're about, and it's not about doing a sales. It's about who are you, what are you, and in my line of work, when I'm doing my B2B connections, or actually people-to-people connections, it's about tell me your story and what's kind of cool. Even if you don't make a sale, there's nothing to do. There's no further connection at that point in time. You've learned something new. And on top of 2019, I realized that I ran into a gentleman. His company does clinical trials. At that point in time, I didn't know anybody who wanted to play Frankenstein. And at the bottom of 2019, I ran into a doctor. He says, listen, I need clinical trials for a pancreatic cancer treatment. And I know a guy. And, and then it went from there, right? I need support. I need someone to write the business plan and direct them to the right parties. So you never know what's behind door number one and where it might lead. It may not be immediate. It might be a little bit later on in life.
Right. And realizing that the connections you make can be beneficial for others is a really important aspect of networking.
Yep.
Now, you and I could have a 3-hour talk on networking and barely touch the surface, but would you care to share some of your favorite networking tips?
Favorite networking tips? It's to go in with no expectation, other than good common courtesy. Hi, how are you? And then be open and listen to what the person has to say. For me, as they're talking, I'm thinking automatically of cross connections, which would be beneficial. And it can go both ways. It can go, the person I'm talking to might have a service that's really going to be helpful to someone else I know. Tell me more. How is it priced out? And conversely, back, it can do the same thing. Or they could do potential for a joint venture. And again, this goes back to the PureFog. Two different streams of business came together, and we formed the company called PureFog out of the deal.
Yeah, that's also, I would say, comes with experience. A lot of people starting out a business, the small business in particular, they're trained from a young age. I would think networking, sales pitches. You got to get out there. You got to get gigs. Well, how do you approach somebody who's just trying to sell you the first time they meet you?
Well, the sales pitch, and if they're doing the job, that's fine. Just tell me what you have, and I'll tell you where my standing is. Can I use your service? And if it's no, that doesn't mean I'm going to shun them. Tell me more, and then I ask the next question: who are you looking for? Is there some benefit to somebody in my community that you have? In which case I might do that. And that's happened. There's a service out of South America, and they do staffing placements, or virtual staffing placements. And it depends what you want. The guy's talking to me, and I said, "Oh, okay." And so I know some companies. What you've set up sounds useful to some companies. Let me do the connections, and off to the races we are. Some of these connections do have a payoff at the end. There is a affiliation fee or reciprocity fee. It's called many different things. Sometimes there isn't, and that's okay. It's not just only the money; it's also the information. You're building up a shared network, right? Mm-hmm. So if you tell me you're a charity, I'm going to introduce you to somebody. I don't expect the charity to give me any money because here's the transaction, and maybe the other person I'm introducing you to, it doesn't have a reciprocity agreement with me, and that's fine. But if I see that this is a really good fit, this makes strong, good sense, and it's just a good win-win. I've now have two contacts that are having a positive positive relationship, and I'm in the mix, right? So it paints you in a good light.
Excellent. What about branding? Like branding tips that for some of our small business owners listening out there.
So from a branding perspective, one of the things I try doing, like when I'm on other platforms, I'll have my my background with the company name, right? And so you try to have that piece. If I'm using content, let's say I'm posting something on LinkedIn, I'll keep the same text, and then I will keep the same format and keep it consistent in other platforms. So if I'm going to post something on Facebook, if that's appropriate, etc., you just carry it through. You just got to keep that the image, the logos, and the wording the same, and that is consistency. Even in the Connect Ottawa space, consistency is an important thing. We've been doing this every Tuesday. We've had a guest speaker, and it's free to attend, 1 to 2 p.m. And the key out of that is it's always been consistent. There's about four weeks out of the year we don't broadcast because it's 2 weeks in the summer and 2 weeks around Christmas. Mm-hmm. And we just, every time we'll have something there. And consistency is important because people now, once they get to recognize your name, get to see your name, know that they can find you at the right time, the right place.
Yeah. I mean, having consistent branding or text even across different social media platforms is very important.
Yeah. Most agreed. Agreed.
And that leads to the concept of processes. Like, would you care to share some of the processes? Let's say you have a guest speaker or you record it. How do you get it across on LinkedIn, Twitter, or
sure
platforms?
So one of the things we do, we do a video recording of a presentation. So we have an intro piece, which has got a little bit of artwork, some sound and music. We promote the person's logo, and then we have the person's talk, and then we have an extra piece, which is the tail end. So it's front end to back end. It's all encapsulated. And right now, I'm starting to look at doing podcasts. And so I'm working with Carl Richards, and he's the podcast educator. I've met him through the Phoenix Business Exchange, and again, showing you you get to meet somebody in a networking group, and you're going, hey, what do you do? All right, and you have the chats, and later on they say, listen, I've got this thing, and other people are using this thing. In this case, the podcast, and they do the same thing. There's a segment that comes right before the podcast starts up and says, hi, what the scoop is. And then you have it. It's structured, right? Not so structured that you can't turn, but it has a format attached to it. So at this point you talk about who's speaking, much like we're doing right now in this interview session, and then you kind of wrap it up. And so and if there is an ask in there or a next action, for the consumer or the observer to respond to, call to action, right? And then you provide that. If it's uptake, great. If no, that's fine. But all that information, like podcasts, the videos, and later on, I'll rebroadcast that on LinkedIn, right? And I say, oh, by the way, here's our event. Mm-hmm. In fact, I'll invite through LinkedIn people to come into an event. Will they all show up? No. Will they know about it? Yes. Will they remember your name? Yes. Right. And so you're doing a soft ping. You're not coming up and say, hi, buy my cryptocurrency. I mean, I think that's kind of the current one that's floating around there, where people are a little too assertive sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Excellent. Being consistent with the branding, it all comes into play for the credibility of a business, charity, organization. Your Connect Ottawa, it's Phoenix. It's all to continue the brand in people's minds.
Yep. And at the same time, in our particular circumstance, we're also promoting someone else. And we're bringing, again, diversity. Our guest speakers are usually, they do it for one-time exposure,
Mm-hmm.
and some of it's really handy. We've covered everything from the finance, the legal, hardware in the IT universe, to social media, and there are variations on the theme. And then some people have other new software, or other new platforms, or other new products that might be handy to our community, or might be handy to people around us.
Excellent. What about money tips, Bernie? Like, say, people who've been in business a couple of years, perhaps even during COVID, money's been tight for many. How would you suggest small businesses deal with money?
Okay, so you got your business plan. That really helps having the business plan. So your business plan is kind of your goalpost. Like, where do you want to be? What do you want to be doing? The other piece is also recognize that the business plan might change, because all of a sudden, like, no one anticipated the pandemic lasting for like 2 years. So you have to adjust and adapt again. The third thing is knowing that there are potentially grants and funding out there. I deal with one company here in town, and if someone says, "Listen, I need a grant," or I've got a new idea, I drive them to that particular company. And the reason I do that is they'll know whether the well is full of water or it's dry, right? Is there a right time? Which grants to go for? Or you're coming up with a new product, a new platform, and they can help aim you in the direction of putting in an application to the feds or the province for funding. Then there's another aspect, and it's really hard to have a conversation. Not hard to have a conversation, but asking a person this: are you a woman under the age of 30? Right? And if you're meeting a person for the first time, you have to couch that question with, "There's a grant for you here in the province of Ontario." It's not always on or active or available, but that's an opportunity. Here's $16,000 because you're a female entrepreneur under age 30, and they're trying to focus on that. And so there are those elements. And if you're a business that's already up and running, there's a host of options like Shred, which deals with research and funding, but you have to have staff, and then you can claim that, but that needs an accountant. That's not something you just pull that off the shelf. I can whip through that, and hold on, maybe you can, but odds are you're going to have way too much fun. You don't want to cycle your time so heavily in something that I can do it, but now I have to learn it. Right? It's much like again, accounting or tax purposes. If the CRA changes the rules, then you kind of have to talk to someone that already understands what does that mean, right? Or even if you're applying for CERB or other funding, you might not qualify, and you might apply for it and get the money, and all of a sudden going, they're going, no, I want it back. You don't want to end up in that boat.
Yeah, you talked rather about not needing to become an expert on every little piece of what you're looking for, like especially anything to do with finances or accounting. Work with specialists whose passion is that.
That's
but
right.
Let's talk a little bit about helping people find those grants. Questions like that can be so valuable through the networking angle by offering to help with resources.
Absolutely. And again, the person that I'm dealing with, I met him in 2019. It was a one-off moment of going, hey, he had a booth and going, tell me, well, what do you do? Tell me the story. And I'm like, well, that's cool. We changed business cards out.
Yeah.
Right. And so now within the Phoenix group, we have an e-card. Literally, it's a little card. It's got a QR code in the back. Right.
Yeah. And
because I'm a member of Phoenix, I don't have to pay for it. And I can come up to your phone. And if I'm doing an in-person meeting, I can tap your phone. It has what they call NFC, or near field communication. And it puts the information on your phone set, regardless whether it's an iPhone or an Android. And boom, you just shared your information. And that's what you want to be able to do. Share your information. One other thing I found really handy, having a Calendly. I mean, there are other applications that I just know I named the brand. That saves time. And again, I'm spending a little bit of money in a space where I don't have to sit and go back and forth by email with somebody going, what's the time for you? Well, no, Saturday doesn't work. Or Friday doesn't work, or it just saves time, right? And the same reason you also go to an expert at a certain point in time. You have only so much time in your day. What's it worth? Right? If the expert is something you can do, then utilize the expert, right? You have expectations and guaranteed results.
Yeah. What's it worth for time? Like, that's a great lead into the time management.
So for me, my time management is I have certain set processes as I start my day. Other than turning on the coffee maker and making sure I get a bite to eat and make sure that the dogs go outside and feed the birds. It's like I'll touch my LinkedIn platform, then I'll touch a couple other platforms. Getting any updates. Right, then I'll kind of swing over what is my objective today. Check my calendar, because my calendar rules the roost, so to speak, for what's happening in the day. What do I have to prepare for? Right. Once you've got that mapped out, if I were a store where I had people walking in like a bricks and mortar environment, then I'd be running. Okay, is my space ready and prepped? Is my if I have staff ready? You set things up so that when they occur, prep is key. So when things occur, it goes smoothly, right? And if the other important thing is not everything always goes smoothly, is always to stay calm, because you know what, stuff happens in life, guaranteed. We here at our house where I'm stationed, we had an upgrade. Bell was coming through with an upgrade, so the guys are cutting the end of the driveway so they could drop the big fat orange cable everywhere.
Yeah,
we took out my Rogers feed. So I'm sitting there, and both my spouse and I both work online, so we had to pair up to our cell phones, right? So you have to know that you have to have backup plans, and if you don't have a backup plan, if you're calm, then you can kind of think it through. What do I got to do next, right? Everything's resolved. Everybody was fine. It was an accident, and or just one of those moments where, oh yeah, that's unfortunate. You have to work around it, right? And so I got reestablished.
Yeah, that's always can disrupt, but approaching it and it's like, okay, just another challenge. Let's get over it. How do you deal with it?
Yep.
Yeah.
The other thing I've also recognized is also having backup hardware, backup pieces. Both when I was working in the healthcare institution, but even now, I have my primary computer. I have a backup computer, that I realized I hadn't worked on it since July of 2021 on the machine, because I just went and did the updates yesterday. Right, but that's an example, because if this one crashes, that's what I'm reverting to, right? So I have a backup plans, right, and it's always key.
It's very important too. Yeah, in all parts of business.
Actually, even if your network's strong enough and good enough, then if you need something, you can always call upon one of your colleagues. Right, and that will make life a lot easier for you. The kind of the saving grace, and like a buddy system.
Yeah, very, very wise. What about successes, Bernie? And we could talk about Phoenix or Connect or Creative Insight. What successes are you most proud of?
Wow, every day is a success, right? If you get up and you're not 6 feet under, that's success one. Success two, like I'm proud of the fact that Connect Ottawa has been running strong and long. Phoenix has been a great space also to learn and connect with people. We've done some charity golf tournaments. Either by Connect Ottawa by itself in one year, and the other year we did it with Phoenix for success for a charity inside the city. Cornerstone Housing for Women is an example. I think the successes are that I have a lot of positive business relationships around me. Some of them yield good coin, and some of them are just really good connections. And inside, if you're feeling proper and right about what you're doing, life flows.
That's really important. I mean, why would we be doing what we're doing if we felt lousy every day?
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
And on the opposite coin, Bernie, what about some failures or perhaps lessons learned in business?
I Well, not to be totally reliant on one source. In this case, not that it was a failure; it was a lesson learned. Being adaptive. When your primary internet source gets cut, it's like, oh no. I mean, I reached out to a colleague. I don't know if you know Yova and Strika from Elastalink.
Yes.
They're an IT company here in town. And so with Yova, and I called up and said, "Listen, if I stay dead in the water, so to speak, can I use one of your office spaces?" Because he had some stations that weren't manned,
Yeah.
and so he said, "Yeah, sure, absolutely." So having those connections, it's lessons learned and results that you're pointing back to, right? What other things have I learned? Legal expenses can be just even getting set up can be a bit of a surprise at times if you've never seen it before. But if you find the right person, it goes well. It goes well.
And
never skimp.
No, there are some things that businesses should not skimp, like IP, legal services, finances,
or insurance.
Insurance.
Yeah, having that insurance coverage, that's also important. That usually gets kind of last in the leg. The only time you need insurance is when things aren't going well, and that's the wrong time to ask for it.
Yeah, that's very true. And Bernie, where do you want to be, let's say, in about a year from now? Obviously, higher than 6 feet. I think, like what's next for you?
I'm working on podcasting. Working a little more, doing a little more social media push on different products. The PureFog Canada with our disinfectant. We're looking to make that a little more pronounced and move it forward in that space. There's like three or four chessboards on the go, and each area you want them to move further along and successfully, right? And the way that works is you have a team, because as if it's a one-man show, it's really, really hard to do that. So if you're working with a team, and then you put your resources in, and if you're finding one of the other key things, if you're finding that you're getting swamped to a certain point, let's say even just doing the bookkeeping piece or handling calls, and the revenue's coming in, splurge on a virtual assistant. Lori Miggins is a good example of that. She's done that. She's done that support for other people in her business. You hire that person. If you hire staff, then even if they're what they call gig economy types, right, where they're coming in, they just do a role, and it might only be for a project. That's fine. They understand that. You understand that. But sometimes hiring that, a couple of things are your positive result. Your health stays intact. Yes, you have to shepherd a few more things. You don't want to be a micromanager. You say, "Hi, this is what I need to do." Handle it, and if it goes really well, then there you go. You have another value-added resource. It's like there's a favorite mechanic you like, right? You take your car. They tell you, "Oh, by the way, you're about to have a surprise, and this is what your surprise is in about maybe 3 months. Heads up," right? Or they tell you, "I've replaced something," and so forth. But you get the gist of what I'm saying.
Right, and it also frees you up to work on what you want to and what you're really excelling at.
Absolutely. Or the time off. The other piece that I've realized is mindfulness. Another gentleman, one of my colleagues, Lalith Ganarante, he works for a Sage, and he works on if your head space is in the right space, the rest of you tends to follow, right? And it's and that's another key important thing. So the reason you'd have the added resources or utilizing added resources is to maintain that, so you actually have time to breathe. Is if you're continuously on work, when you go off, all of a sudden you're depleted. And worse, even if you're sick, right? Who's covering for you? Yeah. You have a backup plan, right? So it's to have that mapped out, or explore it at different points in time when you're ready.
Excellent. Yeah, we've covered a lot of great wisdom here, Bernie. Thank you. We're going to be wrapping up shortly. Would you care to share any final words of wisdom for the small businesses out there?
I would say if you're starting up a business, you'll probably have a collective around you already. So you'll probably have your accountant and lawyer already established. If you're doing a bricks and mortar arrangement, you probably have your realtor, etc. From there, what you want to do is start networking in the community. Ottawa Board of Trade is a really good example of that. The Phoenix is, the Connect Ottawa is, what I've found in the past for me. But even Thai, the Indus Entrepreneurs, that's another good one. Cost-wise, super easy. But again, I've gone into conversations at their meetings, and the next thing you know, I've just learned a whole bunch of new things about stuff I never knew about before. And it was the gentleman I was dealing with was talking about trade with China and how they have a fixer involved in the middle of that, and a fixer in a good way. And so, it's just a fascinating story. I'm not doing trade with China, so it's not of major import, but you're getting a story, right? So appreciate those moments, learn to appreciate them, and sit back. And by the way, if you're keeping your head in a calm space, sometimes you're sitting back going, I've got a problem. And then next thing you know, I know a guy. And you do that yourself, right? And you're going, how can I fix this? Or they can reach out and talk to me, and I can help them out too.
Well, thank you so much, Bernie. We covered a lot of great things here. Now, how can somebody get in touch with you?
Oh, super easy, super easy. You can go to the Kreative Insight website, or you can get a hold of me at Franzgrote, BFRANZGROTE, at Kreative Insight, all one word, KreativeInsight.com. That's a good way to get a hold of me, or they can reach out to you, because Jarrod, and you can echo them back this way.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Bernie, for taking the time. So today, folks, we were joined by Bernie Franzgrote, who was quite active in the community and connecting with other people, and also has his business, Kreative Insight. Bernie, thank you so much for your time today.
Jarrod, appreciate it. Thank you so much, sir.